Crypto Curator. And before I get started, let me thank our sponsor, RoundlyX. You can purchase Bitcoin and crypto assets with spare change roundups. Now, this is where you connect your debit card or your credit card to their platform. And every time you use it, it automatically rounds your purchases up, but it does it in Satoshis. And you can even do much more than that. You can do routine automated purchases of your crypto assets because they partnered with the best exchanges. So why don't you go over to roundlyx.com, use the code Bitcoin is Freedom, and get $4 in Satoshis. With that, let's go ahead and get on with the show. Okay, so I think we might not have an intro today, but that's okay, because we can go straight to the PowerPoint if we don't have an intro. Sometimes that doesn't work out quite like that. So let's see if the producer will be able to pull up the slides. If he can, we'll just dive right in, folks, and we will get started with the show, because I do have a lot to talk about, believe it or not. What I'm going to do today, and what we're doing is we're switching up our format just a little bit. I'm only going to be doing my shows on Thursdays at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. I think it's 8 p.m. in the Netherlands, but so it's late at night for our producer. So with this, I'll be flip-flopping. One Thursday, I'll do Bitcoin is Freedom. Next Thursday, I'll do Bitcoin and Politics. Who knows? I might do a couple freedom shows in a row, two couple shows of politics in a row. Just depends on what the news is giving us. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the February news for what's been going on with Bitcoin, because the reason that I'm doing this show is because the regulatory environment that we're in has been crazy. And what I'm trying to get over to people is that, as the title of the show, listen, Bitcoin is not bothered by all this regulatory pressure. Believe it or not, as we look through this news, you're going to see something that jumps right out at you, and hopefully it'll make a lot of sense to you. Now, let's start off with some of the metrics that we've seen from Bitcoin that I want to point out, because these are really, really important. The first thing you need to know is that Bitcoin was the least volatile it's ever been. And the Bitcoin price in February, from the beginning to the end, only went up 0.03%. Folks, I think Bitcoin would be considered a stable coin, probably more stable than Tether and USDC. Now, in addition to that, over $60 billion in Bitcoin has been inactive for more than a decade. That should tell you something. If you ever remember listening to Michael Saylor said one of the things that he was really taken by was that the hodlers, that these people held on to the Bitcoin no matter how high it was, no matter how low it went, people still held on to their Bitcoin. And that's a real strong point for Bitcoin, is that a lot of people hold, they hodl. And that's really important, because that shrinks the supply circulation, which means we could have a supply shortage and a supply squeeze pushing the price higher if it plays out the way we think it's going to play out. Now, Bitcoin's accumulation rate exceeded the 2018 bear market. And what that means is that when you're in a bear market, people are steadily accumulating more and more Bitcoin. And that happened a lot this time, more than it did in 2018. So again, these metrics should tell you something about Bitcoin. We're not talking crypto, just Bitcoin. The proposed Bitcoin vault feature could thwart malicious hackers. This is a new feature that's being proposed to the Bitcoin blockchain, that if someone were to try to steal your Bitcoin, what would happen is that the system would detect this, and it would automatically begin to move your Bitcoin from your wallet to a new wallet, preventing the hackers from getting access to your Bitcoin. I don't know all the technical ins and outs to it. All I know is you're going to definitely want to check that out, because that probably is going to be a phenomenal feature to get us out of this. Because we know right now, wallets and platforms are hacked and people try to get to your crypto. This is a great way for that not to happen. Now, nearly 370 billion in Bitcoin has gone dormant. Spot volumes hit nearly yearly highs as BTC turns volatile. So again, this is another point, another metric point to tell you that people are not moving Bitcoin around. Bitcoin that's been dormant for a long time is hitting a high level, which means that the hodlers are having diamond hands, right? They're really holding on to this. And that's what the next one says. Bitcoin diamond hands sit tight despite the rally. 1 year plus old supply hits all-time high. And then Bitcoin, of course, is taking the lion's share of institutional inflows, hitting a 7-month high. So folks, what I'm trying to show you with these metrics, everything Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. Should you play around with the other shit coins? That's up to you. I would say not. Now, as we look at the trading of Bitcoin, you've got P2P Bitcoin trading in Argentina ticks higher amid the inflation woes. DBS says Bitcoin trading's up 80% in 2022. That's on the decentralized exchanges. And $370 billion broker, Interactive Broker, debuts Bitcoin trading in Hong Kong as crypto demand grows. Again, folks, I'm putting all this up front so that when I get to the rest of this crap that's coming up, you're going to be able to tell the difference of what's going on in this intense regulatory environment that we have. Okay, now as we look at adoption, so you look at the metrics, looked at the trading, now looking at adoption, Bitcoin remains a safe haven asset for 67% of millennials in 2023. There was I should have probably put this in here, but I didn't. There was an article talking about how Bitcoin is going to take 3 generations for mass adoption to happen. Listen, the millennials get it, right? The Xers and the baby boomers, right? Still trying to learn. Millennials were born with this stuff. So, and if not born, they got it when they were very, very young. So they're going to grow up knowing nothing more than Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, right? So it's going to take a long time for this shift to happen. But you can see 67% of millennials, they believe it's a safe haven asset. Visa is launching Bitcoin and crypto credit cards in the UK, 48 pack countries. Bitcoin is the best brand in crypto. Why DGOT's NFTs are now on Bitcoin. And you're going to see Ordinals is also on Bitcoin. As you can see, that's what the next one talks about, right? Taproot utilization goes high. Thanks to ordinals, there's 100,000 ordinals that were minted on the Bitcoin blockchain. Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. All right, let's take a look at mining because mining is important. Our good friend Gerald Vata over at Quantum Economics talks about the mining hash rate all the time. Bitcoin miner Iris Energy, they're going to triple the hash rate after buying 4.4 exahashes in machines. Guys, listen, I think it was Matt Kaiser that says price follows hash rate. If hash rate skyrocket, price is going to skyrocket. Bitcoin hash rate hit a 300 exahash mark, and it's been even higher than that because this came out the first part of February. Toward the end of February, it's much higher than that. And Bitcoin miners are already making nearly 600K from the Ordinals NFT transactions. The utilization of the Bitcoin blockchain continues to ramp up. So now let's listen to some of the voices that are talking about Bitcoin. Satoshi Nakamoto, he explained why Bitcoin is unlikely to fail, and that's because it's decentralized and non-trust-based asset. It's a blockchain that doesn't require trust and is totally decentralized. It is never, ever going to fail. If it fails, it's got to be some wild fluke in the code or something just we couldn't have imagined. But right now, it's been going for 14 years, unlike Reuters, who wrote an article said that it's 15 years old and it's only 14 years old. Almost 15, be 15 at the end of the year. But it's been around a long time. Now, 14 years is not a long time, right? It's a very small period of history. When this becomes 30 and 40 and 50 years old, that's when we're going to start seeing more mass adoption. And I believe it's going to continue there. Lynn Alden said that Bitcoin is by most metrics in a deep value zone. And what she meant by that is that right now, as the price continues to go up, more people begin to bail into it. And what we're starting to see is that, guess what? It's staying around. But the people that are buying now, they're buying at a deep value zone, which means that we could see Bitcoin. Scott, there's articles that was talking about Bitcoin getting to 50,000 before the halving and maybe 200,000 after the halving. So again, deep value zone. In the NY Fed report came out, said the Bitcoin is an orthogonal to monetary and macro news. The Bank of International Settlement says rising Bitcoin prices spur much greater adoption. Just a few months later, And a majority of the Bitcoin retail investors lost money in the last 7 years. They lost money in the last 7 years, but we're seeing all-time highs for how people are hodling Bitcoin. That should tell you something. Charlie Munger, he's calling for crypto bans in the US. We know what's wrong with him. Leave him alone. Ray Dalio, he says, he tries to slam Bitcoin and crypto, says digital assets are not storeholds of wealth. I don't know, Ray. I think you might be biased there because if you go back to 2008, 9, Bitcoin was $0 to today, it's $23,000. I think that would be considered a storehold of wealth. All right. Now, what I really want to talk about was now that you understand all that, because I needed to explain all that before talking about the legislation and regulation that we're seeing. But if you didn't hear all of that, you might buy into some of the stuff that you hear with this regulatory environment that we have. Right off the bat, we look at the White House. They're concerned about crypto, is what the article talked about. Now, in this article, it was actually come from CoinDesk, and it's actually an opinion piece. It says U.S. President Joe Biden, White House, published a statement on implementing safeguards for cryptocurrencies. Now, this is the thing. Remember, and listen to this as I go through all of this news. Cryptocurrencies, not Bitcoin. Okay, there's a difference. There's a significant difference. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, but there is a difference between their concerns about crypto and Bitcoin, and with good reason. All of the drama we've had has been a result of cryptocurrencies, not Bitcoin, right? Let's go on and look at the Congress. We got the executive branch. Now we're going to look at the legislative branch. And there's a lot of things going on in Congress. So first, U.S. blacklists Bitcoin and Ethereum addresses tied to Russian sanction evasion efforts. Well, this is going to have a little impact on Bitcoin because they are sanctioning them, but it's not for you and me. This is for bad actors. And again, people, listen, unfortunately, we have bad actors that play with Bitcoin. And there is going to be regulatory efforts to try to thwart those actors. Will that hit us? Maybe in some shape, form, or fashion. But to be honest, I don't care that they're blacklisting Bitcoin and Ethereum addresses tied to Russian sanction evasion efforts. That's just the way that it is. We've got U.S. Senator Tim Scott, who released priorities for developing crypto regulatory framework. Remember that word, crypto. You've got Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong. He actually visited D.C. in an effort to push for regulatory clarity, less sugar. Policymakers need to focus on tokenization, not tokens. Now, again, we're getting into the tokenization of assets. This is not Bitcoin, tokenization assets. Republicans plan to reintroduce legislation restricting crypto in 401ks. Now, this will probably have some impact on Bitcoin, but just today we saw news where there's activity with For Us All allowing for people to put a particular index in their 401ks that's tied to Bitcoin. Let's put it that way, or crypto is what they said. And then you got Senate Republicans drafting proof of reserve legislation because they want to make sure that the exchanges can prove that they have the reserves. Again, will have some impact on Bitcoin, possibly, but this is not directed at Bitcoin directly. In addition to that, we go on and look at Congress talking about the crypto crash. The Senate hearings show political parties are divided on how to rate the sector. This is a tough thing to do, and we can't get everybody on the same page to save their lives. We can't get the policymakers nor the regulators on the same page to regulate the sector. But again, even if they did, doesn't have that much impact on Bitcoin. Now, Senator Warren, she pledges to reintroduce her crypto anti-money laundering bill. Again, still won't have any effect on Bitcoin. Crypto regulations decided by Congress, not the SEC. This is according to the Blockchain Association. And we do have organizations that are lobbying Congress trying to help them understand the space better so they can have a better regulatory effort in this whole deal. And again, hopefully it's sensible, it's fair, and it's not going to be crazy. We've got Operation Choke Point 2.0, federal government's ploy to snuff crypto in full effect. And again, listen, this is crypto. This is not Bitcoin. They're not trying to go after Bitcoin. And you're going to see in effect, they're not going after Bitcoin. They're trying to go after crypto, the stuff that where all the shenanigans are happening, where all of this, whatever you want to call it, nonsense is going. It's not happening with Bitcoin. If you are holding Bitcoin and you're self-custodying your Bitcoin, you have nothing to worry about in this stringent regulatory environment. Okay? Crypto regulation camps are divided in the US. Lawmakers draw lines, choose sides. We sort of talked about that before. As we go on and look at Congress, I got a couple more slides on Congress. We've got mini burritos and MICA. This is where the U.S. congressional staff, they're talking with their counterparts in Europe, trying to come up with some global effort to reel in the crypto industry. You've got U.S. crypto surveys showing bipartisan ownership despite legislation being stuck on party lines. Again, that was in conjunction with the others. Coinbase launches grassroots campaign to influence U.S. lawmakers and regulators. Now, Coinbase has really stepped out there. Not only have they launched this campaign to do this, they're trying to get you involved to make sure you're talking to your representatives. This is what I've been talking about as well. Everybody need to either email, tweet, I know I said email first, I shouldn't, tweet, call, visit, or email your representatives and talk to them about digital assets, specifically Bitcoin first, and then the rest of this crap. I'm not a maxi, really I'm not. And then we looked at Binance. They are really getting hammered right now on all sides. Everybody's going after Binance. Now, Gerald Vata said Binance is not the bad guy. He did say that whatever, Augustus Kaysen or whatever the guy's name is over the BIS, he's the bad guy. But the reality is that everybody's trying to go after Binance right now, including people in crypto. Coinbase is going after them. Why? Because this is the battle of the exchanges, if you ask me. All right, the last piece of Congress news that I want to talk about are some of the actual members of Congress. Senator Warren, she's launching her anti-crypto army, as I said. Coinbase executive is talking to Congress to step up its crypto regulatory efforts. Now, listen, Coinbase wants Congress to step up their regulatory efforts. And the reason I believe that is because I think Coinbase has positioned themselves to be really regulated so they don't get hit by the regulation that comes out. But everybody else that's not, hint, hint, Binance will get hit. So I think you're seeing some fighting going on. But again, this is crypto stuff, not Bitcoin. U.S. lawmaker Representative Tom Emmer, now this one is Bitcoin, introduces a bill aimed at limiting the Fed's authority on creating the digital dollar. No digital dollar, no way, Jose, get that mess out of here, right? And then Maxine Waters is saying all regulators better get together on crypto. You tell them, Maxine, because the regulators, they do need to get together. Now, as we shift from Congress, we're going to look at the states. There was a lot of stuff going on in the states in the month of February. Again, I'm telling you this because everyone's looking at this really tough regulatory environment and might be concerned about Bitcoin. There's no reason to be concerned about Bitcoin. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Now, that's in the bad side. In the good side, it does, because Mississippi, their Senate passed a bill to protect cryptocurrency miners from discrimination, i.e. Bitcoin miners, because most other assets aren't mined. The only ones that are really mined are Litecoin, Bitcoin, Doge. Maybe there's some others out there that are mined, but the big ones, those are the big ones. So this is going to protect miners in Mississippi. We've got New Hampshire. They could becoming an alternative crypto for crypto firms. Instead of moving to Bahamas, just go to New Hampshire. Paxos standards, now they faced a lot of scrutiny, but again, this is not Bitcoin. This was because of BUSD, right? But the stable coins. Stable coins are also getting hit in this regulatory environment, but not Bitcoin. Consumer Federation of California, they've made a reattempt to regulate crypto companies. Again, regulating the crypto companies, not regulating Bitcoin. Crypto private key protection bill passes Wyoming's legislature. Now, this is good, and it does apply to Bitcoin, but it's in the good sense, right? We do want to make sure that we protect the fact that we keep our keys private. New York State, they announced another upgrade to its virtual currency monitoring capacity. Virtual currency monitoring, not Bitcoin. New York Attorney General sues CoinEx crypto exchange over registration. Again, they're suing the exchanges, has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Illinois officials are pushing state crypto licensing to emulate New York's BIT license. They're sort of going counter of Wyoming, but New York is very heavily regulated. They're trying to make sure they come into the same compliance. And then all of a sudden today, some nonsense about South Dakota proposing a bill to change the definition of money to exclude Bitcoin. Good luck with that. I don't think that's going to happen. All right, as we begin to look at the SEC, this is where a barrage of regulatory efforts are being spent, and this is where the battle is really being drawn. And the SEC is really hitting hard on a lot of cylinders. And this is what we're starting to see. This storm that's starting to brew and rise up, it's because the SEC is like, okay, we're going to tame crypto, and we're going after it. And again, I keep using that on purpose, crypto, not Bitcoin. So the SEC to up scrutiny of firms offering or giving advice about crypto. So if there's firms giving advice, remember that, not financial advice. If there are firms that are trying to give advice on this, they're amping up the temperature on the scrutiny of that, right? Coinmetrics co-founder Nick Carter, he fears of a coordinated attack on crypto to come. We're starting to see that. As I read through this news, it is coordinated. There is no doubt about that. You got Bernstein saying regulatory backlash will lead to more DeFi and offshore crypto. And this is one of the things that they're saying. If the regulatory environment gets too restrictive here in the United States, it's just going to push all of this offshore. And that could be a bad thing. ARK Invest Kathy Wood says crypto crackdown is great for decentralization, but not so good for the US. And then she's telling the truth. The more regulatory scrutiny, the more decentralized it becomes. And that means it's good for decentralized entities, not for the US. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse says desperately missing crypto regulatory leadership amid the SEC clampdown. And this is what all of these organizations are trying to do. Right now, we see a battle being drawn from some of the firms who are probably well positioned in regulatory efforts, try to force more regulation because they're like, hey, we're safe. We have nothing to lose. Let's go after those other folks. We know how in bed Ripple is with the banks. We know how bad Ripple is when it comes to CBDCs. So they are pushing for more regulation because they know that they're going to be safe. That's just me saying that. I can't prove that, but that's what I'm saying. And so then you got Ripple's general counsel came out and claimed that Gensler could be political liability, given that a sizable portion of the voters view crypto favorably. And people do view crypto pretty favorably these days, right? Again, I'm going to run through some of these other slides because I have a ton of them because there was a ton of regulatory news. The next one is talking about Algorand's Foundation. Their CEO says SEC crypto crackdown highlights a lack of regulatory clarity. You got how the SEC could reshape Ethereum staking landscape. And again, look at these different points that they're hitting on. They're talking about, one, the overall clarity of regulation as it applies to everything, digital assets, exchanges, firms, advisory firms, right? And then you look at staking, DeFi, tokenization. A lot of these different things are really starting to be an issue. The banking problem, the industry needs access, but US regulators keep digital assets at bay, right? Banks can benefit from blockchain technology. They can benefit from this, but the regulators are not there to help them. And so they have to sort of stay hands off for right now. You got stable coins. They're not new. So why are the regulators attacking Paxos? Because this is this coordinated effort to start going after Binance, if you ask me, because they're hitting at the one stable coin, Binance stable coin. Are they messing with USDC? No, because it's highly regulated. Are they messing with USDT, which is Tether? A little bit, but Tether's been fighting them back. There are other stable coins out there, but right now the big one that they're going after is Binance because they're going after Paxos because they were minting BUSD because they're trying to go after Binance. You got the former SEC counsel saying agency needs to make clear its crypto compliance rules, right? Again, slide after slide that you're going to see, the SEC has a lot of different areas that they're trying to go after right now, all at the same time. And they're getting pushback on some. They're getting some trying to call them out. And again, SEC is trying to become the agency to regulate this space. I don't think they're really the ones well positioned to do so. You got the CFTC, got the IRS out there, you got FinCEN out there. There's a lot of different agencies, and each one has some aspect. And what makes it so hard is that digital assets functions in so many different areas of each of these agencies. It can be a security, it can be a commodity, it could be money, it could be taxation, right? So everyone has to come together, and we know how government is. They can't walk and chew gum at the same time, right? So we've got this problem here in the United States, this regulatory clarity issue. It's a mess, to be honest. So as we look, Circle is squashing rumors of a planned SEC enforcement action against them. They're like, hey, that's not happening with us. We have nothing Their name is Paul, and that's between y'all, right? The SEC is making it harder for hedge funds to work with crypto firms. Their hostile approach to crypto space makes investors lose billions of dollars, and this is what's happened as the SEC starts to crack down. Money's being lost, and fines are being levied. These firms are having to pay a lot of money to the SEC. And if you ask me, the SEC is happy doing this. They're making a lot of money off them, right? And again, the SEC is taking aim at Paxos. It's annoying, but some think it's good for Bitcoin. And then the SEC is proposing their proposal could bar investment advisors from keeping assets at crypto firms. So not only are they talking about how they give advice, now they're saying this proposal could bar them for actually allowing them to hold assets at crypto firms. News came out today. They were talking about, and this is what Gary Gensler said, just because a platform say that they can be a custodian doesn't mean that they're a custodian. And that's going to be another push point as we continue to go down this regulatory scrutiny path. As we look at our next slide, the SEC, they're to vote on a rule that would tighten crypto custody requirements. And again, that's sort of based on what I just mentioned before. And again, this is multiple days throughout the month of February. And this has been starting at the beginning of February, and it's just ramping itself up as we see more and more activity with the SEC happening as they're trying to tighten these requirements. Requirements on exchanges, how you trade, custody, who can buy, right? There's so many avenues and aspects to this. But again, through all of these slides, have you seen anything targeting Bitcoin? No, you haven't. It's about crypto. And this is why we have to make that distinction between Bitcoin and crypto, because those that are no coiners, they will hear this and they will go, oh, we shouldn't mess with Bitcoin. No, you should mess with Bitcoin. It's the only asset that you really should mess with. And again, if you want to play with the other stuff, by all means, go ahead. You can do that. So Hester Pierce now, if you know who she is, she's been the dissenting voice in the SEC. She said, listen, what they're doing, they're departing from status quo. This is not good. You guys shouldn't do this. And she's going against this. She's been against the way that they've been trying to regulate crypto, and she thinks that it's just a bad path to go down. Now, US regulators may spell Armageddon for crypto, but they are not wrong. And that's what Compound's Leshner says. And there are people in crypto who, again, believes that some of this activity is actually good for the space because it'll wash out these bad actors and washes out people like Sam Bankman-Fried, right? It'll wash out people like Alex Mashinsky. It'll get these people out of the system, the Do Kwons, because we don't need the bad actors around. We need good actors. And anyone who's not willing to allow good regulation to come in place to get the bad actors out, shame on you, because you should. Okay. Now, as we continue to look at the SEC, they're cracking down, like I said, on staking. That's become the next battlegrounds, is how people stake digital assets on these platforms, and with good reason, because we know that you need to prove that this staking is being done right. If it's not on a decentralized exchange, it's on a CeFi exchange, who knows how they're handling that? And so it's a problem. Now, Caitlin Long has been a big bull in the industry. She's been doing a lot when it comes to banking, and she's been the one who's been saying, not your keys, not your coins. She learned from Mt. Gox. She tried to stand up a bank that would be heavily regulated, would be right in line with what we need, no rehypothecating of assets, full reserve bank, and they shut her down. Why did they shut her down? I think it's because Caitlin came out and said a lot of things against the industry, and they know what she's doing, and they don't want to see it done that way. And so they put a squash on her ability to become a full reserve bank, part of the Federal Reserve System, which is a little odd that she wants to do that. But if you're going to play in the system, that's the way you have to do it. So that got shut down. And again, that probably could be bad for Bitcoin in a way, but not really, because while she was standing up a bank for that, and I believe she was only going to be dealing with Bitcoin, and I don't think she's done. I think she's going to continue to push back, and I think she's eventually going to win. The SEC is playing this regulatory flag as Congress still to pick a regulator. That's what Hester Pierce was talking about. Congress, do we need a new regulator? And that's one of the questions to really be asked is, should Congress stand up a new regulatory body that handles just digital assets? Many have argued against it, but maybe we do need to have one like that. The SEC's shadow crypto rules taking shape as enforcement cases mount. This is another issue, is about shadow trading. And this is another part that the SEC is trying to go after. Like I said, the SEC right now, they're trying to go after every aspect of digital assets that you can think of. Let's see. Crypto Regulation Initiative shows SEC's dominance among U.S. regulators. And of course, like I said, CFTC, you don't hear anything about them. You don't hear anything about FinCEN. You don't hear anything about most of these other regulatory agencies, just the SEC. The SEC boss hints that Ethereum is now a security. So again, not Bitcoin. Now we're back to this Ethereum as a security. Flip-flopping. They've been constantly flipping. 1 minute, Ethereum's not a security. Next minute, it is a security. Which is it, guys? You can't have it both ways. And it goes on and says that this is from Jeremy Allaire, Circle CEO, and what he's going to say is rightly so, that the SEC shouldn't regulate crypto stablecoins. Well, and they shouldn't regulate stablecoin. Stablecoin is not a security. And for them to say so is just a little outlandish. All right, before we get to the last couple of parts with the SEC, this is the last just plain SEC slide. Changes lie ahead for haphazard crypto regulations. Gary Gensler says everything but Bitcoin can be accountable under SEC jurisdiction. Again, remember, these agencies are trying to jockey to be the agency to regulate crypto. And a lot of the lawyers, they're disagreeing with the statement that everything but Bitcoin is under their jurisdiction, which I'd have to agree with them. Litecoin shouldn't be under their jurisdiction. Crypto under the eye, top lawyers explain their latest steps. Is the SEC action against BUSD more about Binance and stablecoins? Absolutely. I mentioned that earlier. Absolutely. I believe it. The digital currency, let me get back to that one. Sorry, my slide slipped. So Digital Currency Traders Alliance, they're lobbying retail investors to oppose the SEC crackdown. And again, this particular organization, I'm hoping that you guys tune into who they are, Digital Currency Traders Alliance, because they're doing the same thing Coinbase is doing. They're asking you to get involved with your with the regulators in this situation, with the regulators, not your lawmakers, but with the regulators about cracking down on crypto. And again, crypto, not Bitcoin. US SEC plans to keep growing crypto unit as enforcement ramps up. So the SEC is going to be hiring a lot more people to try to regulate the crypto space. It's unfortunate, but they're trying. Okay, as we look at the exchanges, the SEC is warning that retirement accounts, crypto stakes may be unregistered securities, which is ludicrous. I don't think that should be the case, but this is what's happening. And they're going to start looking at retirement accounts. Will the SEC convince a court it's right to label these tokens as securities? I don't think they will. New interpretations of U.S. Howey test gains ground. Again, Howey test, I think, shouldn't apply to crypto. That's what they're trying to apply to crypto. This is another reason why the SEC probably isn't the agency to try to deal with this. They do need a new crypto agency. Would be great. And then we have to deal with the stupid Howey test. Kraken got hit hard. Remember that? They got hit hard. They paid $30 million. And then, of course, the question is, hey, who's next? Are there going to be others? Coinbase, on the other hand, they're happily defending staking in the U.S. courts, says Brian Armstrong, and they're the ones that are probably the best suited to fight this, and they're probably going to be the best regulated besides Gemini, which doesn't get talked about at all. Kraken CEO Jesse Powell, he slammed them on being misinformed on their whole staking ban, and then the SEC was targeting crypto firms operating as qualified custodians, like I mentioned that earlier about today. In addition to that, they expect the SEC to use its Kraken playbook against staking protocol and against other platforms as well. The SEC wants to ban staking all out, which probably is not going to happen. Could you imagine if they tried to actually ban staking? One, they can't deal with the decentralized exchanges and people stake on there. So I think it's a moot point for that to even happen. On CeFi, they probably be successful, but on DeFi, they won't. And Kraken CEO, of course, is saying, who regulators letting the bad guys get too big, and then you're trying to use that to squash the industry. And they believe that at one point, that's what was happening. All the regulators, they were standing back, watching this thing just grow, get crazier, and then come in and put the hammer down. Well, they could have did that a long time ago, but they chose not to. Why? Maybe that was their plan all along. Who knows? Paxos has been holding actual constructive discussions with the SEC on this whole stablecoin issue. And then, of course, CZ was upset how Jesse Powell talked about the crypto regulation because he said something about offshore. And CZ said, listen, you're talking about us. Don't say offshore because we're all onshore when you talk about crypto. And that's what CZ said. Caitlin Long was actually talking about the exchanges as well. She said she saw a coordinated effort amongst the regulators to reject them. And like I said, is this a coordinated effort from the regulators? And not only here in the US, when you look at the international, it's spreading globally. And while we used to say the government can't agree on anything, when it comes to the regulators, I think it's different. Government leaders, maybe not, but government regulation, I think so. The SEC Coinbase insider trading case is a backdoor rulemaking. This is what a trade association CEO said. And the Coinbase CEO reiterated that staking products aren't securities. I don't believe staking products are securities. They shouldn't be considered securities. And lastly, Gary Gensler again said exchanges may not be qualified custodians. All right, let's take a look at the CFTC. There wasn't much news this month about the CFTC. That's the Commodities Futures Trading Commission. And they're showing their enthusiasm for crypto, drew some attention from the chief, promising more precedent-setting crypto enforcement cases. But again, the CFTC, they take more of a hands-off approach, and they don't really come down as hard as the SEC. But they're saying that there's going to be some more enforcement coming. And they have charged California firm with their CEO with fraud, misappropriation of digital assets. But there wasn't much with the CFTC. Only 2 mentions, not much. The same thing for the Treasury. And that came later toward this month, later toward last month, February, that the US Treasury Janet Yellen called for strong regulatory framework for crypto activities. And she said that they're working with other countries on crypto regulatory framework. And this is, again, like I said, while government leaders and governments themselves might not collaborate, regulators do. And so Janet Yellen is saying, hey, we're going to be talking to our counterparts globally, and we're going to get some regulation put in place. So with that, let's take a look internationally. Now, globally, there are some organizations that do operate on a global sphere. And CoinGecko and 21 Shares, they've proposed global crypto classification standards. This could be good for this space. I think I remember mentioning on one of my shows before, at one point, there used to be an effort from exchanges to stand up what they call SROs, self-regulatory organizations. What happened to it? I don't know, but I probably need to go back and look and see and do some research and see if that's still a thing or not. But we need to regulate ourselves. If we did that, we wouldn't need regulators, right? You got G20 nations looking at creating global crypto asset regulation. Global crypto asset regulation. Bitcoin is sort of outside of that purview. Coordinated global crypto policies, G20 key financial stability priority. See, that's a G20 key financial stability priority. Crypto regulation, crypto policy, right? Globally, they're going to start working on this. The BIS funded regulator to probe DeFi entry points like stable coins. We've got FATF agreeing to an action plan to drive implementation of global crypto norms. You've got global crypto rules to be based on coming FSB and IMF synthesis paper. India says G20 after G20 meetings. And India, we know, has not been a fan of crypto. India is now trying to take this hard stance like China, talking about possibly banning crypto, which is a nonsense talk, right? You got the IMF who prefers to regulate rather than ban it outright. And then the FSB, IMF, and BIS, they're preparing the papers for the framework. So globally, we know that there is an effort to regulate crypto, and we know that that's starting to come into light. And again, this is going to have impact on anything but Bitcoin. So just remember that. Put your money in Bitcoin, not financial advice. As we look at Canada, our neighbors up north, here in the US up north, Canada is close to tightening their rules for crypto exchanges, and a new Canadian rules for crypto trading platform leaves little room for stablecoins. So again, there's this effort to clamp down on stablecoins. clamp down on these exchanges, because that's the on-ramp. And if they can do that successfully, will they be able to throttle how much money is flowing into Bitcoin and how much money? Maybe, but even if they did that, there's still other ways that you can buy Bitcoin that's not on the big exchanges that very well will continue. And that's on the P2P platforms. Now, we know local Bitcoins, those guys are talking about shutting down, but there still will be other ways for you to buy Bitcoin person to person, I believe. Again, this is why Bitcoin is decentralized, non-trusted asset. As we look at China, the Bank of China ex-advisor called Beijing to reconsider their crypto ban. You got India talking about banning, now you got China talking about reconsidering it, right? This is nonsense. Let's take a look at France. France is tightening their crypto regulation rules next January, and their National Assembly votes for tougher regulation rules for crypto firms. There is a lot of activity happening globally when it comes to crypto regulation. None of this is talking about Bitcoin specifically. As we look at the EU, there's restrictive crypto rules for EU banks. That's been confirmed in a published legal draft. You got the proposed EU Parliament rule that could have banks applying 1,250% risk weight to crypto exposures to make them handle crypto in a better way. Because that way, if anything happens, they can have the reserves, and that they don't have the same thing that happened with FTX. You got the EU banks told by regulators to apply Bitcoin caps even before they become law. Self-hosted wallet ban avoided in a new draft in EU's anti-money laundering bill. So again, the reason that was avoided, though, is because there's pressure put on those regulators or legislators to not do that. And so our voices matter. The more we talk up, the more noise we make, the less this happens. And remember, this was also going to happen here in the US, and the lobbying effort thwarted that. You got the Ripple executive, Susan Friedman, claims Europe's regulatory framework is leaving America behind, and Europe entices crypto firms as US regulatory crackdown. So the more we crack down, the more crypto moves offshore, supposedly. But I think the US will get their act together. Let's take a look at the UK. London is ranked top global crypto hub a day after the Treasury published their plans on regulating crypto. Craig Wright, he lost his US case against 16 Bitcoin developers to go to a full trial, which was good. Listen, Bitcoin developers should not be taken to court. They should not be hit and targeted, which is just nonsense from him. And then there's a lot more stuff going on in the UK. The financial regulator FCA warns crypto firms of jail time for unauthorized ads. This is talking about marketing to people, how they market, right? That's a problem. They've taken actions against unregistered, illegal crypto ATMs. Again, unregistered, illegal crypto ATMs. Banking regulators propose rules for issuing and holding crypto, and then UK won't be leading on crypto regulation, according to their chief crypto MP. If we look at Australia, they have revealed their plan for crypto regulation, and the Australian regulators review Binance Australia's derivatives over account closures. Again, around the globe, everyone is starting to try to target Binance. But again, according to Girovata, Binance's headquarters in Dubai, they have no extradition policies. So good luck at trying to go after Binance, guys. Not going to happen. As we look at India, the world must take a collective action approach to regulation. That's what their finance minister said. And their regulators are talking about garnering support from major stakeholders. And they are trying, again, I believe, to go after banning instead of regulating. They're going to lose out. They won't win out, I promise you. And a good reason why. Look at Hong Kong, right? Hong Kong, what did they do? They are now allowing retail traders to trade crypto, and China's not doing anything about it. They're lifting the ban on retail traders. But again, they're trying to put the guardrails in to make sure it's done in a reasonable way. And this is really exciting news, because will Hong Kong eventually drive this crypto market instead of the US? Maybe. And we really don't want to see that, but it could happen. As we look at Dubai, they're trying to prohibit privacy coins like Zcash and Monero under new crypto rules, which is crazy. Again, good luck at trying to ban Zcash or Monero or trying to do anything with those, because those are privacy coins. Now, I guess they could try and make an attempt, but good luck. As we look at Argentina, their National Security Commission is set requirements and rules for crypto companies. And again, if you look at all of the places that I mentioned, Argentina, France, Dubai, UK, EU, the list goes on. This is a global effort to begin to deal with regulating digital assets. But again, it's not focused on crypto. A couple more to go. South Korea and Italy, will end up with those. So South Korea is issuing guidelines for regulating security tokens as legislation looms. And again, these are STO security tokens. Their financial regulator monitors Ripple's lawsuit for crypto regulation guidance. If Ripple wins, it's going to change the game around the globe. If they lose, there's going to be some other issues that we have to deal with. And then, of course, South Korea is examining staking services following the Kraken case. Last but not least, Italy, they're setting up a crypto environment that meets EU's new laws. That's what their central bank governor said. So that was a lot, but again, I wanted to cover all of that news, show you at least, and again, a lot of that is just the news that I curated. I just pulled them and dropped on the slides. The news that I curated from the month of just February about what's going on with the regulatory environment that we find ourselves in with crypto. Is it going to have an overall dampening effect on the overall market? Probably so. But out of all of that regulatory effort, Bitcoin says what, guys? You can say it with me. TikTok next block. Doesn't care. Bitcoin is still moving forward. As a matter of fact, what is Bitcoin trading at right now? Bitcoin's at 23,470. I've told a lot of people on WooBits that we need to stay above 23.3. If we do, and we can remain above 23.3, I think 25K or maybe 30K is next in play. I am not a strong TA guy. I'm just giving you my, they call it a swag, silly, wild ass guess. That's what I'm giving you guys right now. So, but the reality is no matter FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, BlockFi, Celsius, Do Kwon, Luna Crash, all of this drama, and where is Bitcoin? Bitcoin started the year at 16,000 and it's now almost at 24. Not bad, right? Could we see Bitcoin end the year at 50K? Sure. Bitcoin is going to keep moving. As a matter of fact, there was an article that came out from Bitcoin Magazine, and it was talking about the pricing of Bitcoin, the evolution from beginning to today. If you look at the chart, you'll be blown away because there are dips. But guess what? Bitcoin keeps going higher and higher. What did I tell you? 2008-9, Bitcoin was $0. Today, $23,000. Listen, I don't care how you look at it. If you have time, patience. If you remember, Travis Kling, founder of Ikigai, he said what? Wealth moves from the impatient to the patient. If you remain patient, you're going to be free. Why? Because you're going to have your money in the most decentralized, censorship-resistant, non-trust-based asset on the planet. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. And it's going to continue to increase year over year over year. Guess what that's going to do? That's going to keep you making more money, more money, more money. It's going to build your wealth. It's going to maintain your wealth, even when you have high inflation environments. Your money is still going to continue to outpace the rate of inflation, and you will be free. Why? Because you will have the resources to give you your time back. You don't have to work on someone else's schedule. You can work on your own schedule, and therefore you become free. This is why Bitcoin is freedom. Bitcoin is the hardest asset the world has ever seen, and it will continue to be the hardest asset the world's ever seen. Because I can tell you this, folks, if Bitcoin goes away for whatever reason, it's lights out for all of us. We have no hope. As Michael Saylor, if you go to Bitcoin is Hope, you will go to Michael Saylor's website, and Bitcoin is hope. It's hope for everyone. It's hope to protect you against rogue nations. It's hope to protect you against surveillance of the government. It's hope to protect your money. It's hope, hope, hope. It's freedom. Whatever you guys do, please stack your sats. Listen, some of you might not have the ability to buy Bitcoin. We always say that, buy Bitcoin. Well, great for you that got money to buy Bitcoin, but if you can't buy Bitcoin, you should be stacking sats. You get yourself 1 million sats, you might be in good shape. I talked about this before. How much Bitcoin do you need to be free? You need to know what that number is. And then you need to work to get that much Bitcoin. Charlie Lee said everyone should work to own 1 Bitcoin before they own anything else, right? Why? Because there are 21 million Bitcoin. We know that there's 31 million millionaires in the world. Every millionaire can't have a Bitcoin. Where does that leave you? You better get you some Bitcoin. So stack those sats, people. It's really important. Okay, I've rambled enough. Let me end the show by saying this. In order to find me, you can go to my website, thecryptocurator.com. That's the best place to find me. You have the 3 most covered news articles every day, plus my full brief, plus the video and the podcast of the day, plus my shows, and a whole bunch of other stuff on the website to make sure you get to where you need to. You can connect with me on WooBits. That's where I'm always at. I've left Twitter. They keep trying to pull me back into Twitter, guys, but I'm trying to stay away. I have to come back every once in a while, but I'm trying to stay away from Twitter. WooBits is the place, woobits.com. And then you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Telegram. That's where you can reach me. Lastly, guys, the Bitcoin Live family is growing. If you tuned in on Sunday, you got a chance to see Matty Sats. His show airs now on the slot that I used to be in at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Every Sunday, you'll see Matty Sats. He had Monty Greenspan on from Quantum Economics. Phenomenal time. If you missed it, please go to the YouTube channel. Find Bitcoin Live. Please subscribe. Ring the bell. There you go. Right there. Matty Sats, Monty Greenspan, Quantum Economics. They had a great show, and I know he's going to continue to put out more good shows. In addition, we've got Gingerly. We've got 3D perspectives. We've got Bitcoin Live itself. There's so many great shows on Bitcoin Live. Guys, please tune in and subscribe, like the videos, ring the bell so you get notified. Okay, I think I've rambled enough for today. I'm going to go, and I'm going to enjoy a tornado. We're supposed to get tornadoes here in Texas, so I'll be hunkering down tonight. Wish me luck. Outside of that, guys, have a good day.